These panel speakers in front of us here today. I can't wait to hear what they have to say. My name is Alexandra. I'll be moderating tonight. And before we start, I'm very honored to present our Executive Director, Mr. J.D. Wolverton.
Thanks so much. We're very excited to be hosting this evening's panel discussion. This is an event that carries on. We started this past winter doing the speaker spotlights, and it's been getting a very well reception here in Fredericton, and we hope to carry on throughout the remainder of the calendar year. So watch our socials for further events. But without further ado, I'd like to introduce our panelists, and certainly appreciate everyone for being here. I know it's a warm night. There's a lot of competing interests in the summertime to go off and do other things. But I think it's important that we have these discussions, and I certainly value your time and appreciate you being here. But I want to give special recognition to our panelists for taking part in being here tonight. So I'll introduce them now. To my immediate left here is Megan Beland. She is the coordinator for Women and Girls at Sport New Brunswick, as well as the coordinator for She Is Active. We're very pleased to partner with Megan on offering. Next is Helen Langrehr, and Helen is a UNB Reds women's soccer athlete and still competing, I understand, so thank you, Helen. And finally, we have Doug Grandy, who's the founder of Rink Rebels, a program which is focused on girls' hockey development, leadership, and friendship. And we appreciate you. So let's get right into it.
Thank you, Jamie. All right, just to kick us off, Megan, do you mind telling us a little bit about what you do in respect to your role coordinating initiatives for women and girls, and about some barriers that you might have come across, systemic issues that you might be addressing through that role?
Sure. So I work for Sport New Brunswick. My role is coordinator of women and girls, which I often joke is a ridiculous title because coordinating all women and girls is a big undertaking, I guess. But really what my role involves is overseeing the She Is Active New Brunswick initiative. So that's a program for promoting and supporting women and girls in sport, recreation, and physical activity in the province. So we do a wide range of things, basically anything that involves women and girls in sport and recreation, from education sessions, kind of empowerment sessions, networking, sharing resources, promoting stories, promoting best practices, and that sort of thing. So yeah, every day is different for me. I don't often say no when people come to me and say, I have this idea or I want to do this. I'm like, yes, let's do it 100%. But really it's just about moving the needle in terms of gender equity in the province. As far as barriers, I mean, for me, working at the provincial level, it's a little tricky. Sometimes trying to get provincial level or provincial sport organizations to kind of latch on to what we're trying to do. It's not that they don't want to, but it's that they're really busy and they have a million other things to do. So that's a bit of a challenge for me. But as far as like barriers for women and girls, I think the research is pretty clear that women and girls often don't have the supportive environments to continue participating. So a lot of girls are dropping out once things kind of aren't fun anymore, or they don't have friends, or it's too competitive and that sort of thing. So for me, the most important thing is just building supportive environments, letting girls have the opportunity to make friends and feel like they belong, because that's kind of what keeps people in sport. So,
Awesome. Thank you. Helen, you're about to start your 5th year of university soccer, and you, from my understanding, have played soccer for much of your life to have gotten to this point. Through your experiences as a varsity athlete and throughout the rest of your athletic career, whether that be in soccer or any other sports you might have undertaken, have there been moments or situations where you felt things similar to what Megan just brought up, and how have you overcome and approached such things to get to where you are at this point?
Yeah, for sure. I'm going into my 5th year. I started playing soccer when I was 3 years old. Commonly started playing with boys, as that was the only opportunity back in my time. And at a certain age, for me that was U11, I was able to get over to the girls' side of things, and that was the first time I think I realized there's actually like a big chunk of girls, there's a huge group of girls that love to be on the soccer field in general, love to be active. And I think one of the huge barriers that still to this day, I encounter, I guess, is like there's a huge lack of like not only opportunities but also visibility, whether it's like in the high performance world or it's in the amateur world. I think a lot of girls go play soccer for the fun of it and they don't really see a future in it. A lot of girls play when they're younger. I coach a lot of FDSA girls here in the city, and they go from year to year. And I think we need, like, in my opinion, we need like a way better way to give them, or like obviously role models, but to also give them a pathway of like, hey, like if you dream of going into the high performance world, this is a pathway, this is what it could look like. These are the coaches. If you want to like stay on an amateur level, like you can do that past high school, you can do that past like university, you can do that after, like it doesn't matter how old you are. And I think that's like something we don't encounter. We don't really know that that's an option. And yeah, another option, like another thing that I've encountered is, I think boys are like, in our heads, boys are prioritized. And to this day in our university, like our boys get the better training times. Our boys, like the field times are, like they get to pick first. And it's like, it's little things. And I think we stand up and things like happen and change. But overall, like from like a very young age to now, like those are still very little things that you encounter on a like almost daily basis that, affect how you like, how much fun you have, how you see like the sports world, I guess you could say.
Awesome, thank you. Doug, you've created a space, from my understanding, for non-traditional hockey players through Rink Rebels. In this sense, I mean that you've opened an experiential opportunity for young girls who might be late starters to the sport, as well as those who are playing for goals other than high performance, as well as obviously you have girls who do strive for those. They're welcomed alongside those who are focused on elite performance. What are your determinants or thresholds for success within your program? How do you measure success in this way, if not making varsity teams or going forwards with hockey in a professional sense, if not just focused by winning? And how does that contribute to your program's culture?
Yeah, so we tried to create a culture of like inclusiveness, right? So we try to include the starter, the girls that are extending to try to go farther in their career, and everybody in between. So we can measure success through winning and stats and points and all that stuff, but we can also measure success in the experience. So having these girls come and enjoy their time and want to be a part of hockey and stay longer, and finding the paths, as these ladies explained, to keep them in the game. And how do we do that, right? How do we build the sense of community and the feeling of they belong to something? I think that is like the heart and soul of Rink Rebels, right? It's the heart and soul of what should be every single women's association is, it's good to compete, but you've got to keep your heart into it, and you have to make sure that it's tangible for them, that they're binded to it by something different. Because from my experience, most boys can walk into a rink or walk into a sports facility or whatever sport they're doing, and they can play that sport and they can leave and they can shut it off, right? It's easy for them to just be like, okay, it was competitive, I'm moving on. But with girls, there just seems to be something more to it. They're more entwined with the reason why they're there. Their purpose has to be more of a purpose than just showing up and doing something. So when you create those environments, that builds confidence and builds that community, women thrive. They thrive, they're happy, and they want to stay in the sport longer, and they want to be a part of it a lot longer. So that's the basis of why we created Rink Rebels, to have that place for them to enjoy that. Whether it's from the day they step on the ice to the day they sign their contract in PWHL, we want to be there with them and see them smile and build confidence.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Helen, based on these endeavors that Doug's mentioned, how do you think we might transfer that to a university standpoint? So where we are focused on winning a title, winning a championship, but also reinforcing that sense of community, sense of bringing recreation, the goals of recreational sport into a university setting to Do you think that is an opportunity that we might have in the coming years? And how would you do that as a leader on a team?
For sure. I think what I loved what you said is that like we have a team of 25 girls like that don't just show up to practice for like playing the game on the field. Like it's a family, and that's a lot of why we show up is because we've created an environment that is extremely like welcoming, very passionate, and we strive for the same goal. We want to win a championship and we want to win games. But to us, that's not what made us come to this place and made us decide, like, I'm going to spend 5 years of my life with these 25 girls. Like, it's the environment, and I think that's eventually what makes you win championships. It's not how good was your practice. Like, it's not like, okay, how many shots on goal were in, or like, that's obviously the soccer side of things, but I think what's way more important is like, how do we create an environment that is super welcoming, that has coaches and has facilities, has athletic staff that are there to support these athletes on and off the field. And for me, it's also like, you include the academic side, it's a whole packet, and there's little things puzzle pieces that need to be that need to fit together and able to make it happen and to eventually win a championship. So I do think it's a great question of like, how can you incorporate that like kind of recreational feeling and kind of like take away just the pure pressure and stress of like having to win games and kind of probably go like a bit of a like non-traditional route and approach. And I do think that is probably going to be an answer to a lot of approaches in the next years, if not right now.
Thank you. Megan, based on what you said about the work that you're already doing and that you continue to work for, and these responses that we've already gotten, are there any tangible changes that can be made within pre-existing programming and for instance, just amateur female or women's young women and girls programming in Fredericton and in surrounding areas? How might we make this more inclusive and supportive?
Yeah, the first thing I always say is group girls together as much as you can. Some sports are lucky in that there's lots of girls participating, some sports maybe not so lucky, but it's about giving girls the option to participate in an all-girls environment. If they choose to play with boys, good for them, like they can make that choice, but it's about giving them the opportunity to play with girls. So that's the number one thing for me, even if it means like you have 3 girls in your program, group those 3 girls together. Sometimes you have to start small that way. And then it's about kind of learning how girls engage in sport. Girls engage a little bit differently from boys in that community belonging piece needs to be in place before they can be like expected to put their all in. And it's different for boys because boys just show up and give it their all, and then they're accepted into the group because they've kind of demonstrated that skill. For girls, it's the opposite. That belonging needs to be in place. So for when coaches or program leaders are kind of building programs, they always say like, number one thing is you need to build that community and you need to have the sense of belonging, because your girls are not going to even put in the effort or not going to want to put in the effort to develop if they don't feel safe and secure in their environment. So that's the number one thing I would say when you're trying to build a program. Obviously role models are incredibly important, you mentioned it, so trying to have women coaches available when possible, and if it's not possible, kind of introducing the girls in your program to other role models in the community. So whether you bring in a sports psychologist who's a woman, or you bring in a nutritionist, or you have helpers who are women, there's lots of ways that you can introduce girls to role models. If you're a man who's coaching a girls team, it's still possible to introduce great role models. And I think we're also lucky in that we're making there's lots of attention surrounding women's professional sport right now, so I would also say kind of like use that to your advantage. Like those are role models that girls see every day and that can really act as inspiration. So kind of latch on to the excitement surrounding the PWHL or the Northern Super League or whatever it is. Because yeah, it's an exciting time for women's sports. So.
I agree. Doug, do you mind telling us a little bit about your upcoming tournament?
Yeah, so we have a tournament August 8th here in Fredericton. It's called a Friendship Tournament, which is really neat. I can't say that I birthed it. My partner Ryan over here helped me birth this idea. So basically the way it works is that girls from all over the province and other provinces put their name into the registration, and we kind of rank them a little bit by where they played before and their past experience, right? As much as we want to have the incorporation of all the girls together, we got to be very cautious of having like a high-profile player against a brand new player in that same age division. So we've kind of gone through all the names and figured that out, and we're starting to put the teams together a little bit. And basically the way it works is that it's a meet and greet. So just before the year starts, or it starts to ramp up in September, at the end of August when we start doing our tryouts, the girls get to meet each other so that throughout the year it's a friendly face, right? So hey, listen, I played with you at the Friendship Tournament here in Fredericton. You make that little bond, and it kind of grows from there. So next year they're looking forward to coming back and meeting that player, seeing them again, right? Within the tournament, we've created more than a tournament. We've turned it into kind of like a festival. So we've reached out to like multiple people from around the province and from around Canada, and we've got a huge support of a few PWHL players and a few local players that are going to come and say hi and talk about certain things and give away a lot of different female promoted products, I guess. So like one of the PWHL players is sending us a signed goalie stick and a little video saying, hey girls, good luck and stuff like that. So anything to kind of create positivity there is what we're trying to do. So we're trying to turn it into essentially a festival for that weekend. We have a lot of cool things planned, so it should be a lot of fun. We do have highlight speakers throughout the weekend. Jenna McLeod's one of them. So she's going to come and talk about the performance edge she puts on. It talks about being prepared for hockey and sport. And she does a wonderful presentation. If you can ever get a chance to sit into it, make sure you do, because it's very good. We try to get her in front of our girls as much as we can. So there's speakers like that are coming through for the weekend, and I think it's just a weekend to celebrate girls hockey and have them all come together. So it should be a lot of fun.
Sounds like
Yeah.
That's awesome. I would like to ask a question generally about longevity. So when we refer to longevity in sport for women and girls, we're talking about more than just staying on a team in respect to staying around in terms of leadership roles, continued participation, or even just staying active and intertwined with the sporting community after organized sport ends. I would like to hear about your opinion on the key ingredients in both preventing burnout during competition and building pathways that can make women's sport a lifetime endeavor. You can start.
Yeah. So on my end, I think again it goes back to making the women feel like they're a part of this right from the start, right? So we welcome them in, and as they progress through. Prime example, Ava Burns here. She is like one of our young mentors. That she comes on the ice and helps with some of the younger kids. And she's helping with our social media and stuff like that. So as we start going through, we're hoping that more and more of the girls come back to the Rink Rebels and start giving back from what we gave to them, right? So that's the idea. Eventually, we just start to fade away, and it's all theirs, right? That's the hope. So creating that longevity, that is definitely a plan that we have in place. But I think you have to make them feel like they created this, or this is their brand, right? Or this is their idea, or this is their family. And, I think that's really key when it comes to female sports. I'm sure you girls have a word to say about that, but yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think for me personally, one of the most important things to prevent burnout is to have to start in a welcoming environment, but to also understand the pathway to especially higher levels, high performance sport, and to have a pathway that is a very inclusive, including mentorship, including small steps to get up to from an amateur level, or from the start being a new player to getting up to that kind of level. And I think one of the biggest issues that I've seen in my time, especially in the soccer world, is that girls coming out of Fredericton aren't introduced to the kind of pressure and the kind of stress that a high performance sport, especially at the university comes with, and coming in as a freshman into university sport is a huge adjustment. It's a huge pressure from yourself, from coaches. It's often attached to scholarships. It's often attached to moving far away from home, and I think it's extremely important that, especially your time in high school, builds up and prepares you for that. And it's the same. It's like time in middle school prepares you to get to the level in high school, and I think having a clear pathway, and I think that probably the best way to go about it is having mentorship along the way, and understanding what it takes, and being slowly introduced to the competitive side of things. And yeah, I think that is my best approach to hopefully not ending quitting your sport.
I think that kind of speaks to just sport in general, how we kind of overemphasize the skill aspect, like the sport skill aspect, and not focus on some of the softer skills and the resilience and all that sort of thing. Just sport culture in general, I think, overemphasizes winning, which is a whole other discussion. But I think, from the get-go, helping girls develop skills that'll benefit beyond sport. So, building confidence, building resilience, time management, all these different things. And I think that's something that should be focused on intentionally. It's not just something that, it'll come, we're going to focus on the sport skills and they'll learn confidence. No, it needs to be something that's intentionally targeted. And there's tons of things out there that coaches and other people can do to do that. On the longevity piece, though, I think you spoke to it. It's keeping the girls involved once they're kind of aging out. Sure, some might go on to keep playing high-level sport. Maybe some will transition to coaching. So it's kind of helping them in that transition period, because when girls are kind of getting near the end of high school and they might not be competing in sport, at least at the elite level, it's how can we keep them involved? How can we keep them as our coaches? How can we keep them as sport leaders? How can we ensure that they're still maintaining a physically active lifestyle? So I think that's a big part of it, and I think that we also need to, when we're talking about pathways, also kind of talk about the recreational pathway beyond high school age, because a lot of women, once they get to university, they're now what am I going to do? I was a high school athlete, and now I'm living away from home, still love sport, but how am I going to maintain a physically active lifestyle? So I think that needs some focus, as well as ensuring that women have recreational pathways in sport as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think facilitating a spot for them to be, that's the hardest part right now, is once we get to that age, that critical age too, right? When you're transitioning from high school to university, when your life's just starting to get going, and then you sport was so much of your life going all the way through, and then all of a sudden it's not there anymore, right? You lose a part of yourself. So I think the big part for us in hockey anyway is trying to provide that place where they can continue to play, whether it's every Sunday night they're coming out to play hockey or whatever it is. We need to try to find somewhere that they feel a part of something, right? Because the majority of the girls aren't going to go on to play higher level hockey. It's just the way it is. Same with soccer, same with anything else, right? So we're catering to the few elite, which is great. We have to boost them, make sure that we help them, but there are so many more girls that fall through the cracks because we don't have places for them to play. So I think it's important that we focus a lot on that.
Noticing that there is a prevalent disparity in support, especially past that age that you're all noticing, that accessibility and this access and support becomes so much more difficult. Do you believe that this can become a generational support network? The girls who graduate of sorts from your program can become the mentors and the leaders for the next generation, and so on and so forth. Do you believe that that's a realistic way of going forward, and would you encourage other sports and opportunities for that in the area?
Yeah, absolutely. If we look at hockey, just speaking of hockey as a whole, to create a good hockey team, you can't have 15 great goal scorers. That's not how a hockey team works, or a soccer team, any other team, right? So everybody brings something to the team, right? It's the same thing as looking at it in that situation. Okay, maybe we don't have Marianne Poulenc coming back to see the girls, but maybe we have you know, a wonderful girl who played rec hockey or whatever hockey all the way through, but they give very good confidence or very good, whatever it is, rapport to the girls. Like, those are the people that you want to have in front of them, right? We always just seem to say, well, we don't have the best coach or the best person to put it here. It's like, well, we do. We have great people around us, and we just need to be better at putting more people and getting more people involved in those places, because we can't always just say, hey, we need the best of the best to come coach these teams. Well, they're not always there, right? You know, sometimes the best might not be the best on paper either, right? You need to make sure you're, you know, paying attention to those girls that are the quiet leaders in the room that can be like, hey, listen, come and encourage these girls to go farther, right? I think that's so important. So, yeah, I do believe that there is room for that, for sure.
Awesome, thank you. Thank you all for that. At this point, we'd love to open the floor to any questions that anybody might have, whether it's directed at one of the speakers or at all three. Please feel free. Yeah.
Yeah, my question is, Megan, part of, you want to go back to what Helen said about girls coming from the Brunswick or Burlington don't have that drive. How would you see that we are able to promote women's sports in general farther? How do we do that in a community level? I feel that here in Fredericton, everything's based around participation. And I'm not talking about making a world-class athlete here. I'm talking about catering to all segments, whether you're just starting, or whether you're a recreational player, or whether you're at that sort of upper level. I'd like to understand from you what you think we need to do. I have some suggestions, but I'll let you know.
Yeah, I think the promotion aspect is huge, and like recognizing the good work that people are doing in communities. And it kind of speaks a little bit to what you were saying in that, like, it doesn't have to be the big name that we're recognizing. Like, everybody has a story, and there are so many women, even just in Fredericton, who probably deserve to be recognized for some of the great things that they're doing in sport. So I think if you kind of approach promotion and recognition in that way, understanding that everybody has something to share, and there are so many people in the community that can be role models and could serve as inspiration for people that aren't necessarily, you know, like the top names that come to your mind first and foremost. We do try and do some of that at She Is Active. We recently had an initiative called Behind the Whistle, which was recognizing women officials from across the province, officials often forgotten in sport, women officials especially. So just kind of giving them a platform to share their story. I basically sat down with everyone, had a little interview, got to know them a little bit better, and then we shared their story on social media. We turned it into a podcast. It's kind of this evolving thing. But yeah, just doing things like that where you're kind of uplifting the voices that are maybe left behind, I guess. Yeah. Did you want to share some of your ideas? I'd love to hear too.
Well, I feel that women's sports is quiet. They're not making noise. And in order to, when you look at inequities, whether it's field time, whether it's ice time, the inequities that are going around, I think it's about creating more noise, conversation noise, profile noise, at levels where it gets noticed, whether it's in a political realm, whether it's like hockey in Brunswick realm or soccer in Brunswick, whatever it happens to be. I think this mentality that's going around and that I see in my observations is everything's geared towards boys, everything's geared towards men, right? And in order for us to achieve the ability for people like Eva here, she wanted to play hockey after university. We need to fight for ice time. We need to fight for recognition in the communities to get some equality or even notice. So I think there's a role that we have to play, and everyone has to play. My only other comment, and I'll speak anymore, but is I don't think Hockey Canada really in their coaching scenarios, and when you take your coaching certificates, I don't think they really focus on the social aspect that women need in creating coaches. So if I want to coach a ladies hockey team or a girls hockey team, right, you take these courses online, and you can pass them, you go on the ice, you go on to practice and everything else, but you don't realize how much girls are different than boys. And I think that's missing too within Hockey Canada's, offerings of coaching certifications, and I think that's something that needs to be looked at as well. So if a man and, I know what happen is, men and women, how do we get more women? Well, and not only that, but how the coaches that are men get to understand how they relate to the girls in the room and how they motivate them and everything else. Yeah. Thanks.
I'll say two things to that. I think on your first point, I think we're talking about culture change when it comes down to it, and changing culture takes time, and every single effort contributes to changing culture, big and small effort. So I think anything you can do to kind of try and shift the narrative and fight, fight against the culture of sport, because we're facing historical inequity, and it's a big thing. So yeah, I think any effort is great. And on your second point about coach training, there are trainings out there that focus on how to best support girls, but lots of people just don't know about it, and organizations aren't making them a requirement. So I'd love to see, Respect in Sport Group has one called Keeping Girls in Sport.
They do.
Probably taken
Yeah.
that one. I think it's awesome,
Yes.
and I think it should be required across the board. It's just not.
It's a great course and worthwhile for
Yeah.
any coach to take.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, even if you're a parent, honestly, and you're trying to understand how your daughter's kind of engaging in sport, would recommend.
I have a question that anybody can answer. I grew up here in Fredericton and played sports here and moved on to a career in the United States. I spent 25 years coaching university athletics in the U.S. And the question I have, and men and women, 17 years with men and 8 with women, recently helped with one of Helen's teams, so she's the real deal, so when she talks, it's good to listen. But the question I have, in the U.S., and I'm not a big fan, so I'm just saying this, they have a law, it's called Title IX, and that requires at the university level, and certainly that trickles down to the high school level. Both of my daughters played high school sports in New York, where the school districts were required by Title IX legislation for funding, for access to facilities, strength of schedule, and we had the same stuff out at Cornell University and had the same stuff. Is there a federal law in Canada that requires funding, access, coaching, facilities within a certain percentage, because that's how it's measured in the US, like in terms of dollars spent and hours and all that? Is there a law in Canada? And if there isn't, that would be a really good idea in some way to get a hold of Susan Holt maybe and say, Susan, can you help us with this? Because I don't think it's going to change unless it's actually measured and forced. To say women have to have the same opportunities and have the same funding, and then you'll start to see things change. That's my thought. So is there a law?
As far as I know, no. I mean, I do think we see some of the trickle of that in that, US and Canada are very connected, we have similar cultures. So culture-wise, we've maybe seen some of the trickle, but as far as legislation goes, no. And that's something that's been in place since the 70s, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it goes back a long way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not really sure how Canada kind of
Well, even in the 25 years I spent down there, I came back in 2020, I could see it evolving.
Yes.
And it was because people spoke up. And some of you young girls here maybe will become the future leaders that speak up and be ambassadors for what you really want.
Okay.
Do we have any other questions, comments?
I'm really interested, Megan, to check out your line of work. Sounds awesome.
Yeah.
I think that there could be a collaboration somewhere. for
Yeah,
sure.
100%. Yeah.
I'd love to hear like gave us our Jenna's point of view of kind of what we're going on, like what we're up to. Did you want to come take my seat? We'll change seats for a second, and you can have a little chat. Come on up. I'm not trying to put you in the spot. So this is Ava Burns. She's, like I said to some of you here, I've known her since she was in diapers. She's a wonderful hockey player, but a better human. What was the award you won at school that you were speaking of earlier?
A French oratory speech. One in the province.
So she's not just a great athlete, she's extremely smart, and she's kind of leading the way with Rink Rebels and kind of striving the way for a lot of the younger girls. So maybe if you want to talk about your experience and how you've had fun.
Of course. Coming to Rink Rebels, the movement, it's a very inclusive environment. Like Doug said, anyone's welcome, no matter where you played, anything. Everyone's welcome, and you're going to grow at the same level to become the player you want to be. The effort you put in. The friendships that are through not only female hockey but Rink Rebels run way deeper than just on the ice. I think it's very important to have the option, at least, to be able to play female hockey. There's a lot of girls I know that they choose to play co-ed, and that's their choice, but it's very important to have female opportunities and see that every leader, the top scorer, the goalies, they are the girls. You get to see like them as yourself. So I think the visibility really matters in seeing female athletes in every role, not only what they're there to play for. I think as well with the boys hockey or co-ed hockey, when playing you don't have the pressure to keep up with everyone, and in girls hockey you have the room to shine. Like you're there to shine and play and become the player you want to be. That's a lot of what I have to say.
That's really great. I also brought Jenna in the cloud with us, and like I said, Jenna's a big part of what we do too. She does a lot of preparation and stuff like that for a lot of the girls. So maybe if Jenna, you want to speak a little bit on some of the stuff that you do, and there you go.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to be here. No, I'm fine. I'm happy to be here because I have a daughter who plays hockey, and I have a son who plays hockey. And I would love the opportunity to look at my daughter and say to her, you have the same opportunities as your brother. That would be wonderful because I treat them equally, but the sporting world doesn't treat them equally. And you're right that girls' sports, it needs to be a little bit different than the boys. They shouldn't have to follow suit with what the boys are doing. They should have their own community, their own support system to lift them up. And so if they do, they have that encouraging environment. You'll have Ava's coming back. And that's how culture change happens, right? When you have these strong women come back and lead these organizations and these groups, then the young ones look at them like they are everything, right? So that it's not just the PWHL girls that they're aspiring to be, that's amazing too. I mean, that's leaps and bounds, and now girls who are competitive can look at that and say, that's what I want. Now, where do I go to get there? So the Avas of the world can say, you can start here. I got you, you know? So I would love to be a part of that movement. I'm glad that Doug has reached out. And where I come from, I guess, in my background is I'm an exercise physiologist and a high performance specialist. So that law, I think, that's the first time I've heard of it. Actually, yes, it's the first time I've heard of it. And I think that we're waiting for numbers to give funding to the numbers, but if we have the funding available, the numbers will come. Yes. So I think that's, I'm really surprised that I didn't know about that, actually.
So am I.
Yeah.
No disrespect, but it's like that's one of the just staples of sport in the U.S. is that like these girls are going to get the same things the boys get. And a lot of it is imbalanced in the U.S. because of university football.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
And they actually dropped some sport programs because on the men's side, like University of Maine, for example, dropped their men's soccer program to make sure that the numbers of opportunities available for men and women are the same.
Yeah.
And that's got to happen.
Yeah, and that's what I think. I think if the funding is there, then the numbers will come. I think there's so many girls who would love to be a part of a community that has the access, the funding, the support, and that's how we keep longevity. That's how we keep girls in sport. That's how we keep them healthy for the long haul. It's beyond sport. These are our future leaders because of the confidence they gain, the teamwork skills they gain. These are gonna be the ones that, come out of their sport and take the bull by the horns, leading companies and, being teachers. Yeah.
Just made me think of the question.
Yeah.
Learning all over again. How integrated is the elementary and junior high school system, physical education programs, into the community club sport programs? Because I do think there has to be a link between school opportunities and sport opportunities that filters into whatever the club programs are offering for boys and girls.
Our schools actually have a policy that they won't send out information for our clubs, that it will only be school related, that they won't share that they're, we're recruiting new hockey players, etc. They have a zero policy for doing stuff like that, which is ridiculous.
I agree.
But,
It's
yeah,
crazy.
it's unfortunate.
We have a hard time at the provincial level with school sport. High school sport is governed by they changed their name.
NBIAA.
Yeah, I forget what their new name is. But yeah, they kind of operate independently and they're under the education board, or education, whatever they're called. And we, even at the provincial level, have a hard time working with them, so I can only imagine at the community level how difficult it is for clubs to try and get in contact with schools. And then middle school sport is kind of a free-for-all. It doesn't fall under the NBIAA, it falls under district. So middle school sport is different depending on where you are in the province. And then I can't speak to elementary school sport. I don't know really what happens at the elementary school level, but
Yeah, there's no communication between the two.
yeah.
There doesn't seem to be.
It's unfortunate because, in my opinion, at least, like school sport can kind of level the playing field in that all kids are at school, and if kids can't access community programs because they're unaffordable or they can't get to it or whatever, I think that's kind of where schools should come in and kind of fill that gap, but we just don't have that, unfortunately.
I think we just created like a little super team here. I don't know.
I think it's great.
I like it, good little community here.
Yeah, I have so many ideas.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you mind sharing a little bit about what it is that you're speaking to the girls about at the friendship tournament?
Oh, sure. I created a little talk actually it started with my son's team because they asked. And then when Doug found out what I did for a living, then he asked. So it's awesome that it went from the boys to the girls. It's called the Performance Edge. And it talks about just taking care of yourself as an athlete. So it talks about, fueling your body well and a little bit of nutrient timing in there. And then it talks about injury prevention, how you can prevent burnout, which was a good topic of discussion. Taking care of yourself. And girls and women have a little bit different needs when it comes to injury prevention. Their bodies are shaped different. Their hormones are different. So you should speak to that. And then also things like sleep, recovery, right? So it's a little bit of everything for your performance edge is how the talk goes.
In what ways might I understand that you're the presenter for this, and they're getting a lot of this information from you? In what ways do you think that we might be able to make this information more accessible to smaller scale women's programs, and even more like age, like a little bit more dynamic in terms of age? How can we get this information to younger girls earlier, and then reach just more of a larger scope?
Right, so I think that associations can invite people in, right, to have these conversations. I was telling you before we started today that my son in his summer program has already spoke to an IOC level dietitian twice. His team has spoke to her twice. He's spoken to a high performance coach that spent time in the NHL. This is just a summer program, right? So those are things that the boys are seeking out. The girls need to seek it out too. So the associations need to ask. And again, I think that there's people who will show up for that.
In your season, do you receive a fair amount of, I assume, support from a nutritionist, a dietitian, sharing a similar kind of message, or do you think this would be beneficial to even somebody in your position who I mean, I assume you know what you're doing at this point in time in your own sporting career, but do you think you could even just use more?
So I actually just wrote it down to talk to you about it after. Not nearly as much as I think we need to. I think there's a big topic, or there's a lot to talk about, especially when it comes to women's soccer and injury prevention. and all the information we receive, which isn't much, but if you were to seek out information regarding injury prevention in soccer, it is 99% male-dominated studies. And the difference is huge. When it comes to like actually the 1% woman studies, you look at that, like we have to, like I have to deal with so many ACLs. Like in my career, the amount of girls that I've had on my team that have torn ACLs it's insane compared to the male side of things. But we still look at male studies. Like we still we have male coaches. My whole coaching staff is male, and our whole our high performance gym is the exact same workouts that are given to the male team. The injury prevention is the exact same on both sides of things, and same as the nutrition. It is all generalized, but when you take a deep dive into it, it all comes from studies that are done on male athletes. So that's why I was going to say we've had to deal with on average 1 or 2 ACLs every single year, and I think there's like a huge gap of knowledge and of opportunities of how to prevent that. And so I definitely think, like, as much as I try and take care of my nutrition, my sleep, take care of the health side of things, like I think there's still a huge step that needs to be taken, and that can be very beneficial for the performance of female athletes.
I agree. So, do we have any questions before I ask our panelists to share their final thoughts and a message with us?
Did you say you were a high performance athlete? What did you say? You're a track athlete?
Yeah, I run on the women's track and field and cross country teams at the university.
So do you face some stuff like this? Is there still kind of can you speak on yours?
I'm very much on the same page as Helen seems to be here. I do believe, just in my specific position, that our coach does a really good job of finding gender-specific training, and he'll recognize when we're doing things that might not be benefiting the women's group, and because he does coach both men's and women's teams at the university. So something that might not be benefiting the women's groups, he'll adjust because he recognizes that maybe those two things do not go hand in hand in that. But there definitely is a very long way to go in terms of figuring out, not starting from a position of where we look at the men's side of things and then build on that to get to the women's, or take things away and adjust, but where we might be able to start from the ground up and figure out, determine what actually is beneficial for female athletes, and not just what we can tweak slightly from the men's side of things.
I love it. Build your own way.
Yeah, thanks for asking. Would you like to share just a final message or? No pressure.
Yeah, I would just say if anybody wants to, this is a shameless plug I suppose, but if anybody wants to do any work with us at Sport New Brunswick and she is active, please reach out. I do have business cards I can leave if anybody wants to take one. Like I said, I'm open to doing pretty much anything that involves women and girls in sport and recreation, so that opens the door, I think. And thank you all for being here. It's great to see such a great group, and thank you for the invitation. I appreciate it, and I think it's important to keep these conversations going and uplift the voices of women and girls and people who are doing great work in women and girls sports. So, yeah, thank you. Exciting.
I mean, she said a lot. I think, we can wait for legislation, we can wait for funding, we can wait for the perfect opportunity. But I think it is we have a huge opportunity with the professional world evolving, and I think it is partially on us to utilize all the opportunities, and especially on athletes that have successfully made it, to kind of lead the pathway and speak up and fight for equality, whether it's the littlest, tiniest details that are different. like, it is worth standing up for that, and I think it might not change for you, but it definitely will change for the generation after you, and I think that is something that, like, everyone can take away, that if you're in a situation where you see that, like, there's opportunity for equality and change needs to happen, that needs to be, like, spoken up for, and that is on, like, on every single one, and that's how that eventually, hopefully, we're gonna get to a point where we can say, I have a daughter and I have a son, and they are growing up with the exact same opportunities.
Yeah, so it's wonderful. I mentioned it before. I had a sister who played hockey through the years, and I kind of watched the struggle with her. And I don't think I really like understood it until I kind of really started getting older, and then I kind of look back and reflect, and like, maybe she came home with concussions, or she was against the boys, or whatever it was, right? And then I've always had a very strong mother who was very proud to be a woman and really pushed women's rights. So it kind of was ingrained in me through those two. And I think just championing this fight and trying to push through for these girls, and then kind of cut the way, and then have wonderful people like you just come with us and build something special. Like, I'm looking forward to the next few years. I think it could be great. So yeah.
I just wanted to say I'm Doug's wife. These are my two girls here. But as much as you're talking about like females and males and comparing, with my two girls, like I just think it's so important what Doug's kind of started here. I have one girl that enjoys more the competitive world with every sport she plays, and one that enjoys more the recreational world, and they're just both so equally as important, like the skills and like the life skills and the commitment and hard work and making friends and the teamwork, like, and she loves sport just as much as the other one. It's just at a different level, and so I just think it's so important to like keep fostering that for all females, regardless of what level they're at. Just, for when they're older, even like you said, to stay healthy, to stay active, regardless of if they're competitive or recreation. So I love Rink Rebels for that reason.
I think we lose along the way. Everybody wants to be so competitive and make these great athletes, that you've missed out on
what it's all about.
Sport provides great leadership and teaches time management, like you mentioned, the confidence that it builds from playing any type of sport at any type of level. And that is Lacey and I come from Sackville, and we are struggling now to try and dispel well, if they play co-ed, they make better athletes. But do they? That's not actually the case, and you don't understand. We've never offered this program before. And I guess that's our struggle, is we're going to put our daughter in co-ed, and please, by all means, there's nothing against co-ed, but don't tell me that it makes them a better athlete, because that's actually not the case. And I don't know how to fight against that mindset. I feel we've proven that, but it's like, oh, your girls did so well because they played co-ed when they were younger.
It takes away the fact that it was because they played female that they actually became so great.
Right,
So,
exactly.
So, you miss out on it creates so many more opportunities for them and so many more benefits that we.
Well, Blakely always played co-ed up until this year, and this is her first year playing in a girls' league, and she loves it, but also, I would say when she played co-ed, she has a group of girlfriends that she loves, but not a lot in common with them because they're not like the same level athlete as her, and they don't have the same interests. And now that she's playing with all these females that are like-minded and competitive and athletic, and it's just like she's found her people.
Yeah.
Right? So that's all a big part of it too.
Absolutely.
And you can see it. Like, I don't want to speak too much on my family or anything like that, but I can see the difference right away. And I'm pretty good at watching, and as Ava knows, like I pay attention to all the girls, and I make sure I kind of get to know them. But when you're dealing with your own kids and you see them just break out of their shell and the coffee, you're like, okay, well, that's it, right?
That's where our story was born. Half of their U11 hockey team was girls, and the room was louder. There were dance parties, and it was like, whoa, wait a minute, because I played sports growing up, but I played on all girls teams, so I didn't realize that my daughters weren't getting the same experience that I had. So then we had the girls team, and the music is wild, the smiles are endless, they have so much fun, they bonded across the years, it's just amazing.
And it's showing up to the rink an hour and a half before to hang out with your friends.
Because you're excited.
Yeah, you just even want to.
Yeah.
That's really powerful. Yeah. Thank you guys. And thank you so much to our panelists. I'm going to close it down. Thank you for your time and your insights. And thank you all for coming up tonight. It's really special to hear all of your opinions and your experiences. And we hope that you might be able to continue this conversation informally after we are done here today. Best of luck on the upcoming tournament, friendship tournament. I hope that it is an amazing success, and I hope that you're able to work with some people at New Brunswick, hopefully, and really promote these opportunities, because I think that the possibilities are endless. But yeah, please feel free to grab a drink or a snack, and thank you all so much for
Thank
coming
you so
tonight.
much.